Most men believe attraction is built on looks, money, or constant niceness. They think if they just give more attention, more reassurance, more effort, she'll stay. But deep down, you've seen the truth: even good men get left behind. Why? Because attraction doesn't live in your bank account or your jawline. It doesn't grow from endless availability. It lives in something far deeper: your presence, your discipline, your center. A woman isn't drawn to a man who bends to her every mood. She craves the gravity of someone she can't fully map out. Someone whose respect for himself sets the tone before anything else. Not a man who abandons his mission for her approval, but a man who walks his path so firmly that she feels compelled to walk beside him. This is psychological leverage, not manipulation, but strength. It's the difference between seeking her validation and embodying the kind of man who doesn't need it. And here's the paradox: the less you cling, the more magnetic you become. When you're rooted in purpose, when you live with clarity and restraint, you stop chasing, and instead you start attracting. Attraction isn't about being cold or cruel, it's about being whole. It's about standing firm in who you are, inviting her into your world without needing her to complete it. That's the man she remembers. That's the man she respects. And that's the man she will chase, not because of what he gives away, but because of who he has become. In this video, we'll uncover 11 Stoic insights that reveal how true strength, presence, and restraint naturally draw respect and desire. Each principle is not just about women, it's about shaping yourself into a man of depth and power. If this is your first time here, welcome. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video so you won't miss the deeper lessons waiting just ahead. Let's begin. 1. Unexpected vulnerability. There's a dangerous myth that's been passed down to men for generations that vulnerability is weakness. That the moment you let someone see your scars, your fears, or your doubts, you lose power. So men build walls. They hide everything behind bravado, behind the image of toughness. They think if they never let their guard down, they'll never be hurt. But here's the truth. Real strength isn't found in hiding. It's found in the courage to be seen without crumbling. Vulnerability, when revealed with strength, is not weakness, it's power. Think about it. A man who pours out his pain in desperation, hoping she'll comfort him or fix him. That man loses her respect, because what she sees isn't courage, it's neediness. But a man who can look her in the eye and say, "Yes, I've walked through dark days. I've known loss. I've been broken. But I stood back up and I'm still here." That man is magnetic, because he's not asking for pity. He's revealing that he has endured. And endurance, that speaks louder than perfection. Women don't feel safe with a man who has never been tested. They feel safe with a man who has known fire and survived it. Because if he has made peace with his past, he can handle her storms too. The key here is subtlety. Vulnerability doesn't mean spilling your entire life story on the first date. It doesn't mean bleeding out your wounds in the hope that she'll heal them. It means choosing to share fragments of your truth at the right moments, not because you need her to understand you, but because you are strong enough not to hide. Imagine you're laughing together, teasing each other, and then without drama, you share a small glimpse of your journey. A quiet sentence, a short reflection, a scar turned lesson. That unexpected shift disarms her. She realizes you're not just playful or confident, you're real. And in a world full of men wearing masks, real is irresistible. But here's what most men miss. The power isn't in the story itself. It's in the way you carry it. If your voice shakes with need, if you're hoping she'll validate you, she'll pull away. But if your tone is steady, if your words carry acceptance instead of desperation, she'll lean in closer. Because vulnerability at its core is about choice. You're not forced to reveal anything you choose to, and that choice shows control. It says, I don't need you to fix me. I don't need your approval. But I will let you see me, because I'm not afraid of being seen. That is strength. And when you balance that strength with playfulness, with presence, with boundaries, you create something rare. You become the man who can challenge her, who can laugh with her, who can lead her, and also the man who can let her see his humanity without collapsing. That combination is unforgettable. So stop believing the lie that vulnerability will make you weak. Weakness isn't telling the truth. Weakness is hiding it because you're afraid. Strength is standing in your truth calmly, without apology, without need. And when she sees that you can be both unshakable and open, she will respect you in ways no act of bravado ever could. That is unexpected vulnerability, not a plea for sympathy, but a quiet declaration I have endured. I am still here, and nothing you see will break me. 2. Playful power. You know, most men today take themselves far too seriously when they're around women. They walk on eggshells, afraid of saying the wrong thing, terrified of offending her, desperate to be seen as the nice guy who never makes a mistake. But do you know what happens when you live like that? You become forgettable. You blend in with the 1,000 other men who tried too hard. Playfulness is the antidote, not the childish kind that comes from immaturity, but the playful edge that's born from deep emotional security. A man who is truly grounded in himself isn't afraid to tease. He isn't afraid to challenge lightly, to laugh, to let the moment breathe. Why? Because he isn't performing. He isn't trying to pass some invisible test. He is simply being. Imagine this: she tells you about her obsession with horoscopes, and instead of nodding politely or pretending to agree, you smirk and say, "So you're telling me you're dangerous and unstable?" Got it. Delivered with warmth and a steady gaze, that small moment creates spark. It breaks the script she's used to. It makes her laugh, but it also makes her think, this man isn't afraid of me. He's not bending to win me over. That's playful power. It's the ability to dance on the edge of tension without losing your center. It's knowing that rejection is not a threat, because you don't need her approval to confirm your worth. And that is what makes it so rare and so attractive. Most men never tap into this because they're consumed by fear. They treat every conversation like a job interview. They measure every word, polish every sentence, hoping to score points. And the result? They come across as stiff, scripted, hollow. But the man who is playful, who dares to throw in a gentle jab, who can laugh at himself, who can laugh at her without malice, that man is unforgettable. Because in a world full of men desperate to please, he reminds her of something real. Playful power also reveals leadership. When you're willing to challenge her ideas, to question her assumptions, to make her laugh when she's dramatic, you show that her moods don't control you. You hold your frame. You're not afraid of tension, and tension, when handled with grace, is the birthplace of attraction. But let me be clear, playfulness without respect becomes cruelty. That's not what we're talking about. The Stoic man doesn't mock to belittle. He teases to connect. He doesn't joke to wound. He jokes to remind her that life is not a performance, and neither is love. Think of it this way: a rigid man is brittle. He breaks under pressure. But a man who can play, who can bend, who can laugh, shows strength of a different kind. It tells her, I don't need to hide behind perfection. I don't need to impress you with rehearsed lines. I can simply be here free and unafraid. And freedom, my friend, is magnetic. So if you've been too cautious, too afraid to step out of line, hear this. Stop chasing likability. Stop fearing the little storms of tension. Instead, lean into play. Let her see that you can tease her contradictions, laugh at her stories, question her lightly, and still hold your ground. Because in that dance, in that mix of tension and laughter, she feels alive. And the man who makes her feel alive is the man she will never forget. That is playful power, not weakness, not immaturity, but the confidence to laugh, to challenge, and to stay grounded no matter how she reacts. 3. Authentic compliments. Let's be honest. Most compliments today are empty. They're recycled lines, words tossed around without thought. You're beautiful. You're amazing. You're so sweet. But here's the problem. She's heard it all before. From strangers online, from men in bars, from co-workers trying to be polite. And the more she hears it, the less it means. You see, empty praise is cheap. It costs nothing, and because it costs nothing, it carries no weight. But a true compliment, a rare, authentic compliment, can cut through all the noise like a blade through silk. Not because it flatters her, but because it reveals that you actually see her. A man of depth doesn't praise what everyone else notices. He doesn't tell her what's obvious, what she's been told 100 times that week. Instead, he looks deeper. He pays attention to the subtle things. An act of kindness, she thought, went unnoticed. The way her eyes change when she talks about something she cares about, the way she pauses to listen more than she speaks. Those details are invisible to most, but not to him. And when he points them out, when he says, I saw how you helped that old man carry his bag, without making a big show of it, that says a lot about who you are. She feels something stir, not because of the words alone, but because they reflect truth. Truth she didn't expect anyone to notice. That's the power of authentic compliments. They strike deeper than surface beauty because they touch character, not decoration. They don't inflate the ego. They nourish the soul. But here's the part most men get wrong. If you compliment her constantly, you drain your words of meaning. The more you give, the less she values them. Because what's given too freely is rarely respected. The Stoics understood this. They knew that words are like currency. They only have value when they are backed by substance. And substance comes from you. If you are a man who notices nothing, who skims through life on autopilot, your words will always sound hollow. But if you are a man of awareness who pays attention, who sees what others overlook, then, when you finally speak, your words carry the weight of your character. A compliment from a weak man feels like a bribe, but a compliment from a strong man feels like a gift. One seeks approval, the other offers recognition, and women know the difference instantly. So let me ask you, what do your compliments say about you? Do they reveal depth, or do they expose desperation? Do they come from strength, or from a need to be liked? If you want your words to matter, save them. Don't hand them out like candy. Make her work for them. Not because you're playing games, but because your admiration is worth something. Let her see that you're not impressed by the surface, that it takes more than beauty to move you. And when you finally choose to speak, speak from truth. Say less, mean more. Let your words reflect what others miss, because that's what lingers. That's what makes her think about you long after you're gone. Remember this. Women aren't starving for attention. They're drowning in it. What they crave is meaning. And in a world full of flattery, the truth stands out like a lighthouse in the storm. That is the power of authentic compliments. Rare, real, unforgettable. 4. The intimate pause. There's a kind of power most men overlook, not because it's complicated, but because it feels uncomfortable. It's the power of silence. In a world where everyone is rushing to speak, to explain, to justify, to prove themselves, the man who pauses stands apart. Think about it. How often do you fill the space with words because you're afraid of what might happen if you don't? Afraid that if you don't respond right away, she'll lose interest. Afraid that if you don't explain yourself fully, she'll misunderstand. So you rush. You talk too much. You scramble to cover every moment of quiet. But here's the truth. Silence is not weakness. It is restraint. And restraint is mastery over the self. A pause is powerful because it forces her to feel you instead of just hearing you. When you hold back instead of blurting out, when you take a breath before responding, you create tension. And tension is where attraction is born. Picture this. She throws a little test your way. Maybe a passive-aggressive comment. Maybe a playful jab meant to provoke you. Most men flinch. They defend. They argue or they laugh nervously. But the man who pauses, who meets her eyes, stays calm, says nothing for a beat longer than expected, shifts the entire dynamic. Suddenly, she's no longer in control of the moment you are. Your silence speaks louder than any defensive words ever could. That pause tells her, this man is not ruled by me. This man is steady in himself. And that is the beginning of respect. Now understand this. Silence doesn't mean ignoring her. It doesn't mean shutting down or walking away or being cold. It means you refuse to be dragged into chaos. It means your emotions are not on a leash, tugged by every word she says. Most men fail here because their inner world is unsettled. They can't stay quiet without feeling anxious. Their thoughts race, their insecurities bubble up, and they panic, so they fill the gap with nervous chatter. And in doing so, they reveal exactly what they're trying to hide, their lack of composure. But when you learn to pause, when you learn to sit with silence, both inside and outside yourself, you project strength without trying. It's not an act, it's alignment. It tells her that you are not desperate for approval. You are not scrambling to be understood. You are in control of yourself, and therefore of the moment. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion, and in that gap, in that pause, you find freedom. You're no longer chained to impulse. You choose your response instead of being dragged by reaction. And here's the beauty, that choice, that stillness is magnetic. It makes her wonder what you're thinking. It makes her lean in, curious, invested, because she can't predict you. And when she doesn't know when she has to work to read you, her attraction deepens. So let me leave you with this to learn the art of silence. When she gets emotional, pause. When she tests you, pause. When the moment feels heavy, pause. Not because you're lost, but because you've found control. That pause is not emptiness, it's gravity. It's what separates the man who is used from the man who is respected. And once you master it, you'll never need to explain your worth again, because she will feel it in the space between your words. 5. The power of presence. Let me tell you something most men miss. Presence cannot be faked. You can't buy it with a nice suit. You can't borrow it from a fancy car. and you can't pretend it into existence by memorizing clever lines. Presence is earned, and the only way you earn it is by facing yourself, your struggles, your demons, your discipline, your solitude. You've seen it before. A man walks into a room, and without saying a word, people notice. The energy shifts, conversation slow, eyes follow. And here's the mystery: he isn't always the richest man in the room. He isn't always the tallest or the most muscular. Sometimes he doesn't even speak much. But there's something about him, a gravity like he carries the weight of his own life with ease. That, my friend, is presence. Now, most men today don't have it. They walk in with their shoulders hunched, eyes darting around for approval, speaking as though they're apologizing for existing. And then they wonder why they feel invisible. It's not bad luck. It's not that women are shallow. It's that they've given no one anything to feel. Presence isn't about how you look. It's about how you live. It's the byproduct of respect for yourself. When you wake up with purpose, when you keep promises you make to yourself, when you fight your inner battles instead of running from them, something changes in the way you move. You stop fidgeting. You stop rushing. You stop performing for approval. You begin to carry yourself differently, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're already impressed with who you've become. That's why presence cannot be given. It's not something a woman or a friend or a boss can hand to you. It is forged in silence and sweat and nights you stay up pushing forward when no one is watching. It's built in the gym when you said you'd go and you went. It's built in the work you commit to even when no one cares. It's built every time you look in the mirror and ask, "Am I proud of the man I see?" And here's the secret: women feel this immediately. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to declare it. Your stillness speaks louder than your words. Your patience reveals more than any pickup line ever could. When you are deliberate in your movements, when you walk as if every step has weight, when your silence carries calm instead of insecurity, that's presence. But most men give it away. They adjust themselves to her moods. They look to her for cues. They allow her reactions to dictate their energy. And when you do that, you've already lost her respect. Because presence requires that you lead yourself, no matter how she feels. So let me leave you with this: stop chasing presence through image. Stop trying to buy it, or copy it, or fake it. Start building it through discipline. Wake up earlier. Keep your word. Sit alone in silence and face the thoughts you've been running from. Cut out the noise, the endless scrolling, the desperate chase for cheap dopamine. Do that long enough and you won't have to announce yourself. You won't have to convince anyone of your worth. You'll simply walk into a room and people will feel it. They won't know why, but they'll know something is different about you. That is the power of presence, and it begins with you. 6. Mystery over validation. A man who lives by Stoic discipline understands that the moment he begins to over-explain himself, to constantly seek reassurance, he gives away the very ground he stands on. Desire does not thrive in the soil of certainty. It grows in the fertile space of mystery. A woman does not fall for a man who is desperate to be understood at every turn, but for the man whose depths unfold slowly, like a book that reveals its wisdom, page by page. Validation is easy to give, and even easier to lose respect for. When a man rushes to declare every detail, to seek approval for his choices, he unwittingly shows that he doubts his own worth. And if he doubts himself, why should anyone else believe in him? Mystery, however, is not about playing games or hiding in shadows. It is about having enough inner stillness and confidence to to let curiosity do its work. It is the discipline of not rushing to be known, but allowing others the privilege of discovering who you are, slowly, patiently, simply. Think of it this way. When every truth is laid bare at once, there is no tension, no spark, no unfolding. It is like seeing the last scene of a play before the curtain has even risen. Mystery keeps the mind alive, the heart leaning forward, the attention drawn closer. A man rooted in himself does not need to hand over everything. He reveals only what is necessary, never begging to be seen, but allowing himself to be seen in time. In relationships, this becomes a quiet but powerful force. Instead of explaining every motive, he lets his actions speak. Instead of seeking constant affirmation, "Do you like me? Do you still care?" He rests in the knowledge that his worth is not dependent on the answer. This restraint creates space, and in that space, attraction grows. Mystery is not silence for its own sake, nor is it manipulation. It is the discipline of knowing that who you are is too vast to be consumed in a single glance. It is the wisdom to let another person discover you slowly, like exploring the depth of a forest, instead of rushing through a hallway. A man who understands this no longer chases validation. He does not need to. He becomes a presence to be experienced, not a puzzle to be solved. And in that space where curiosity breathes and imagination roams, respect is born and desire lingers. 7. Verbal seduction. There is a difference between speaking to be liked and speaking to be felt. Most men fill silence with chatter, hoping their words will win favor. But in truth, this only dilutes their presence. A Stoic man understands that his words are not currency to buy approval. They are instruments of influence, of resonance, of lasting impression. When he speaks, he does so with intention. His pace is deliberate, never rushed, as if each word has weight. He pauses when necessary, allowing silence to frame his sentences, letting the listener lean in rather than pull away. This mastery over rhythm, knowing when to speak and when not to, creates tension like the drawn breath before music begins. Verbal seduction is not about flattery, nor is it about poetic lines rehearsed to impress. It is about presence carried through the voice. When a man's tone is grounded deep, calm, steady, it communicates far more than the content of his words. A simple phrase spoken with conviction can stir emotions that linger long after the conversation ends. The way he says, "I see you," has more power than a dozen empty compliments because it is felt, not performed. What makes this kind of speech unforgettable is its authenticity. He doesn't seek validation in her reaction. He is not measuring his worth by whether she laughs, blushes, or praises his wit. Instead, he speaks as one who already knows his own value. That quiet confidence is magnetic, drawing her deeper into the exchange, not because he is trying to impress, but because he is simply being real. Women remember men less for their cleverness and more for how their words made them feel. A well-placed pause, a thoughtful question, or a subtle remark that touches her inner world can create intimacy without ever needing grand declarations. In fact, verbal seduction is often about less, not more, stripping away noise, revealing only what matters, and letting her imagination do the rest. And so the Stoic man does not strive to be quotable. He does not rehearse speeches or rely on scripted charm. He understands that the most seductive words are not those that sound perfect, but those that carry truth, weight, and presence. They leave an imprint, not because they were clever, but because they were alive. That is the art of verbal seduction, not seeking to be remembered for the compliment itself, but for the way his voice, his tone, his presence made her feel in that moment, safe, stirred, and seen. 8. The feeling she can't forget. Clothes fade, looks shift, words are forgotten, but feelings, those invisible imprints left in the soul, remain long after everything else has passed. A woman rarely recalls the exact color of your shirt, the brand of your shoes, or the way you styled your hair on a particular evening. What she remembers instead is the atmosphere you carried into the room, the weight of your presence, the calm anchored in your gaze. She remembers how your silence was not emptiness, but a language, one that spoke of confidence, patience, and steadiness. True masculinity is not about dazzling with excess, but about leaving behind a resonance, like the echo of a song that lingers long after it ends. A man rooted in himself does not need to decorate every moment with noise. He listens deeply, as if every word she speaks matters. He pauses, allowing space for her feelings to unfold, showing that he is not rushing to impress, but present to experience. And this presence becomes unforgettable. Why? Because most men chase moments of validation. They try to buy memory with gifts to etch themselves into her mind through grand gestures, through endless talk, through trying too hard. But what remains unforgettable is not effort. It is essence. It is how she felt when she was with you. Safe, seen, understood, or perhaps challenged, awakened, and stirred. Either way, the mark you leave is emotional, not material. Think about it. The memory of a night is not in the restaurant's decor or the car you drove. It is in the glance you held across the table, the ease in your smile, the way you absorbed her laughter as if it was the most natural music. It is in how your words were few, but chosen with care, and how your silences gave her room to breathe and be herself. Feelings once planted become standards. Once a woman has felt calm in your presence, chaos feels unbearable. Once she has tasted the rare blend of strength and gentleness, the shallow noise of lesser men no longer satisfies. She begins to measure others not against what you did, but against what you made her feel. And that is power. This is the mark of a Stoic man. He is not memorable because of decoration, but because of depth. He is not unforgettable for his performance, but for his presence. He reminds her of something most cannot give: a sanctuary in a restless world, a reminder that real connection is not flashy, but felt. So ask yourself not, what should I say, or what should I wear, but what feeling do I leave behind? For in the end, feelings outlast memory. They become the compass by which she navigates her future. And once she has touched that calm, that fire, that presence, you are no longer just a man she met. You become the feeling she cannot forget. 9. Purpose before pleasure. There is a timeless truth the Stoics whispered into the ears of men. Never exchange your mission for approval, nor your purpose for fleeting pleasures. For once you do, you cease to be master of yourself. You become a slave to the whims of others. A man who chases pleasure above all else is like a leaf tossed in the wind. His sense of direction shifts with every breeze of desire. One day, it is the attention of a woman. The next, it is the validation of a crowd. And the next, it is the intoxication of comfort. But all of these are temporary, unstable, and easily stripped away. The Stoic path teaches that true strength is found in what cannot be taken from you: your values, your principles, your inner compass. Purpose is not glamorous. It is not always applauded. In fact, it often requires sacrifice, endurance, and moments of solitude that others will not understand. But when you place your mission above the temptations of easy approval, you carry yourself with a different gravity. You walk into a room not needing recognition, not seeking applause, but already anchored by something deeper. And people feel it. Women in particular sense it immediately. Attraction may spark with appearance, with charm, or with words, but it burns steadily only when a man's life is tethered to something greater than desire. A man of purpose does not orbit around her approval. Instead, he invites her into a world already set in motion. That is irresistible because it is rare. Think of the warriors, the builders, the philosophers of old men whose legacies outlived them by centuries. They were not remembered for how charming they were at a dinner table, nor for the validation they chased from others. They were remembered for the vision they carried and the lives they shaped. That is the paradox. The more a man centers his life around purpose, the more attraction flows toward him naturally because he is no longer chasing it. He radiates self-possession, and in that possession lies a magnetic calm. But let us be clear, purpose before pleasure does not mean the rejection of pleasure. The Stoics did not despise beauty love or intimacy. They simply taught that these must never occupy the throne. A man who seeks joy without being ruled by it is free to savor life more deeply than one enslaved to it. He enjoys pleasure, but he is not consumed by it. He accepts love, but he does not collapse without it. He values intimacy, but it never replaces his mission. The purpose is the heart of masculine strength. When you live by principle, you cannot be easily swayed. No rejection can destroy you, no praise can corrupt you, and no fleeting comfort can derail you. You are guided by a North Star that shines regardless of who approves. So the question every man must face is this: what is your purpose? And have you placed it above your pleasures? Because if not, you will forever be tossed between the two, pulled toward validation, drifting away from your deeper calling. But if you anchor yourself in mission, the paradox unfolds. Attraction, respect, and even desire will come chasing you, precisely because you are no longer chasing them. That is the Stoic way. Purpose first, pleasure second, mission before approval. And when you live this way, you do not just win admiration, you win freedom. 10. Myth-busting comfort is contrast. Men often believe that giving a woman complete comfort, endless reassurance, and predictable devotion will win her heart forever. They imagine that if they erase all doubt and provide stability in every moment, she will never have reason to look elsewhere. But this belief, while well-intentioned, is incomplete. Comfort has its place, but without contrast, without mystery, without challenge. Comfort alone becomes suffocating. It transforms passion into routine desire, into habit, and romance into something resembling family duty rather than living attraction. Think about it this way. A fire does not survive in perfect stillness. It needs oxygen movement and space to breathe. Too much comfort is like smothering the flame with a heavy blanket. Warm at first, but lifeless in the end. Desire works the same way. A woman does not fall for the man who gives her everything she asks for immediately, nor for the man who bends at every request. She falls for the man she cannot fully predict, the man who is steady at his core, yet still capable of surprising her. This is not about playing games or withholding affection. It is about embodying a deeper principle attraction. thrives in the space between certainty and uncertainty. If she knows you love her, but cannot quite guess what you will say next, or how you will lead in a moment of tension, she feels both safe and intrigued. That paradox security wrapped in mystery creates the spark she cannot find in a man who is endlessly predictable. Stoicism reminds us that contrast sharpens perception. We only appreciate light because we know darkness. We only savor peace because we have faced storms. In relationships, the same truth applies. Comfort must be paired with contrast. You listen deeply, but sometimes you let silence linger. You care deeply, but you do not drown her in attention. You are present, but you also protect your solitude. This rhythm, this balance between giving and withholding, creates the emotional landscape where desire is kept alive. Many men fear this. They worry that if they are not always available, she will lose interest. But the opposite is true. When you live with a sense of self-possession, when you pursue your mission, when you offer comfort without abandoning your edge, you give her a rare experience, the experience of being both at home and on a journey. That duality is magnetic. She does not stay awake at night remembering the man who was nice to her every moment. She remembers the man who made her feel both secure and challenged, the one who left her wondering what he might do next, yet trusting that whatever it was, it would be authentic. So ask yourself, are you smothering her with comfort? Or are you allowing contrast to breathe? The Stoic man does not hand over all of himself at once. He knows that desire, like life itself, depends on tension. Predictability may win her gratitude, but contrast awakens her longing. In the end, she does not fall for the man who gives her everything. She falls for the man who embodies both strength and unpredictability. Comfort draws her close, but contrast keeps her desire alive. And it is in that spark, in the interplay between reassurance and mystery, that true attraction is born. 11. Stoic boundaries. A man without boundaries eventually dissolves into the expectations of others. He bends, he yields, he sacrifices until he no longer knows where he ends and someone else begins. What remains is not strength, but a hollow shell of compromise. The Stoics remind us that clarity is the essence of freedom. To live well, you must know what you will allow and what you will not. Boundaries are not walls of pride. They are lines of dignity. They are the quiet guardrails that protect your time, your energy, and your sense of self. When a man calmly enforces his limits, he does not do so in anger. He does not raise his voice, nor does he seek to control. Instead, he speaks with a firm steadiness, the kind that comes from self-respect. He is not rigid, but neither is he endlessly yielding. And it is in that balance of openness with firmness that others recognize his strength. A woman may test him not out of malice, but out of instinct. She wants to know, does this man stand for something, or will he collapse when pressed? If his answer is compromise at every turn, attraction fades. But if his response is calm, clarity, if he holds to his principles without resentment, she feels the gravity of a man who cannot be moved by moods alone. Boundaries, then, are not barriers against love. They are the very soil in which respect and desire can grow. For when a woman sees that a man values himself, she feels safer in his presence. She learns that his yes means something, because his no has weight. Endless compromise may seem like kindness, but in truth, it erodes trust. If you give everything away, what is left to value? If you never refuse, how will your agreement ever matter? It is the man who knows how to stand that inspires deeper attraction than the man who simply bends. So remember, boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. They are not rejection, but protection. They are the quiet language of a man who knows his worth. And that more than endless concession is what draws others closer. Attraction has never been about tricks or endless effort. It is not built by chasing pleasing or striving to be everything at once. Instead, true attraction is born from depth, from the man who knows who he is and stands firm in that knowledge. When you embody purpose, presence, and restraint, you communicate a strength that requires no explanation. You show that your life is not waiting for validation, but already moving with clarity and direction. And in this stillness, in this grounded way of living, others naturally lean closer. A woman does not pursue you because you shouted the loudest or worked the hardest to impress her. She pursues because your very being stirs something she cannot ignore: your calm. In the storm, your boundaries that cannot be crossed, your silence that carries weight. Attraction is not about effort, but essence. And when you live from this essence, rooted in discipline, guided by principle, you stop running after love. Instead, love begins to find its way to you. These 11 Stoic insights remind us that attraction is not about chasing, but about becoming a man of depth, discipline, and quiet strength. Each boundary, each act of presence shapes you into someone others cannot overlook. If today's message spoke to you, I invite you to subscribe and stay connected. Remember to like, share this video with those who value growth, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your reflections. Together, we'll continue exploring deeper truths in the next video, building wisdom that strengthens both character and relationships.